An uncle bus driver, while preparing to depart to perform the last passenger trip of the day, discovered an abnormality from the engine at the back of the bus, so he immediately called the bus company and reported, "I guess the bus may have broken brake pads or some brake lining. Can I take it to the nearest maintenance station?" But the manager informed him that if he did not bring the bus to the garage for inspection, he would have to pay all costs himself, so the bus driver uncle decided to still perform the last trip of the day and then bring it to the company's garage to repair afterward because he did not want to pay from his own pocket for the maintenance of this bus. After that, many passengers also began stepping onto the bus while outside the rain was pouring non-stop. Among these passengers was a pair of grandmother and grandson, but the grandmother only escorted her grandson onto the bus and asked the bus driver uncle to please take care of the boy for me, then stepped down from the bus. Now the radio on the bus was also forecasting a tropical depression rushing into the mainland, causing downpours accompanied by storms and thunder in many places. At this time, at the bus stop, the office worker No Shin Woo was standing waiting for the bus and sending a message to his lover, informing, "I am catching the bus to go home. Do not stand waiting for me at the bus stop because it is raining very heavily. I will be home right away. I love you." After that, his lover Shin Da-on also read this message from her boyfriend with a sorrowful face because earlier the mother of No Shin Woo had come to meet and requested the girl Shin Da-on, "Please do not meet my son again, because my son cannot endure someone with hearing loss like you." A while later, the bus also reached the stop, but ran past the regulated position because the brakes of the bus were no longer working well. At this moment, the office worker No Shin Woo also stepped onto the bus, and nearly all passengers had already gotten off. The male student, Woo Tae Kyung, waiting at the next stop, was splashed by the bus with a puddle onto his legs, but he still had to step onto the last bus of the day. The bus driver uncle began to lose faith in the braking system of the bus and muttered to himself, "I must take it to maintenance soon." After that, he turned on the sign of no longer receiving passengers and continued his journey. At this time, there was a couple sulking at each other and walking on the street. The two had just gone to see a rental house to live together. While the younger woman Lee So-hee loved this apartment very much, the older woman Hawaii was not satisfied because she knew this area had many residents. After that, the girl Lee So-hee voiced reproach to the woman walking behind. "Because no one is here, you want to be intimate with me, right? You do not like that house because there are too many people there, right? Are we criminals or something that you are so afraid like that? Until when do you want to hide our story? Two women loving each other, what is wrong with that?" But the older woman, Hawaii, "I was afraid that people would gossip. We must continuously make excuses to explain our relationship. You will face much more hardship than me because our ages are too far apart. You look just like my daughter." The girl Lee So-hee then shouted loudly and demanded, "Go away! I do not want to be by your side anymore, understand? Get out of my sight." After that, she threw a pair of red shoes into the middle of the road, so the bus driver uncle had to stop the bus. Because of this, the girl Lee So-hee also managed to get onto this bus. The older woman Hawa picked up the red shoes and also stepped onto the bus, then sat behind her young lover. At this time, there was also a mother and daughter of a female student waiting for the bus. The bus driver uncle signaled he had stopped receiving passengers, but this mother and daughter still insisted on chasing after. Because this was also the last trip, the bus driver uncle had to stop the bus. The female student, Nam Gong Si-woon, then asked, "Why didn't you stop the bus? My mother's leg is not healthy." And the bus continued its journey with a total of 7 passengers on board. A while later, the bus began to go up a bridge. When reaching the middle of the bridge, the bus suddenly had a tire explosion at the front wheel, and the wheel also detached immediately afterward. The braking system of the bus was also completely paralyzed. A truck coming from behind crashed straight into the bus, causing it to overturn on the road and hang precariously on the side of the bridge before falling straight into the water below. At this moment, the lover Shin Da-on of the office worker No Shin Woo was walking alone on the street and texting, "I miss you too." After sending to No Shin Woo, she saw a bus falling straight into the river, so she immediately pressed call for her lover, but the phone only rang without anyone answering. She then called rescue, but as a congenitally mute person, Shin Da-on could not report the accident of the bus. She hurriedly ran forward, fearing that her lover was also on that ill-fated bus. At this moment, under the water, the phone of No Shin-woo was still working and had received a message of his lover. A while later, police and rescue also brought all the victims to the emergency hospital, and the rescue team had to work very hard to restore the breath of the victims. After that, the entire team of doctors and nurses proceeded with emergency treatment to save those who had fallen into the water for a long time. Nurse JJI, while working, had an uncle come and report, "My chest hurts so much, can you help me?" But as she was too busy, the nurse suggested this uncle stand waiting over there, so he had to follow the instruction. The homosexual couple was also brought into the hospital in a state showing the older woman clutching tightly her younger lover. A while later, the lover Shin Da-on ran to the emergency room. When entering inside, she did not see her lover No Shin-woo anywhere. All family members of the victims gathered outside the operating room with extremely anxious and worried mood. After that, a body was pushed outside, and the doctor also called the family member of this victim and informed, "The patient has just passed away." The wife had to drag each step away to take care of the funeral for her husband, the bus driver. A while later, the male student Woo Tae-kyung was pushed outside in a coma, so the father and mother immediately followed their son to the patient room. The tension and fear began rising for the remaining families. An uncle who had just taken care of his wife's funeral had to return to wait for news from the female student Namgung Si-woon. After that, this girl was also pushed outside in a state still breathing, so the father followed his daughter. Next, the homosexual girl Lee So-hee was pushed outside and taken by her parents to the patient room. At this time, only one last couple remained and could not hold back their tears anymore. Another body was also pushed outside, but fortunately it was not the family member of this couple, but the older homosexual woman Ha-won. A policeman came and asked this couple, "Are you the family of Kim No Shin-woo? We have picked up his phone on the bus." The mother hugged the phone to her chest and whispered, "Do not die, No Shin-woo. You must live with your parents." The lover Shin Da-on sat outside and called her lover, but the mother hung up and texted to inform, "No Shin-woo has died. It is because of you." Shin Da-on read this message and collapsed completely. A while later, the office worker No Shin-woo was also pushed outside in a state still breathing and was taken to the intensive care unit. Both parents continued sitting waiting outside and tried to believe their son would continue to live. The husband reproached his wife, "Why did you text like that to the girl Shin Da-on? She will be panicked. Call her back." The wife replied, "The girl is deaf so she cannot hear. That is why I opposed their relationship." The husband took the phone and read the message that Shin Da-eun had just sent. "I will go to the place you have gone." And at this moment, the lover Shin Da-on was also doing a foolish act to follow her lover. When the father decided to text informing No Shin-woo was still alive, Shin Da-on also read it, but everything was already too late. The next day, the doctor proceeded to check the consciousness of the homosexual girl Lee So-hee, but the situation still had no progress, so he said, "We have done everything possible. Let us continue to monitor to see how long the patient's life can be prolonged." After that, the head nurse announced that the family members of the victims were waiting outside, so the doctor also went out and said to the families of the patients, "We have tried our best. Whether they can overcome it or not also depends on the will to live of the patient." The mother of the victim No Shin-woo then burst into sobs because the doctor again entrusted the life to the will of her son while he was still in a coma. After that, Nurse Jo-ji went into the restroom. While sitting inside the stall, someone knocked on the door and asked. The doctor said whether to wake up or not depends on the will of the patient. Exactly how does that happen? A person unconscious, how can they find the strength of that will? The nurse replied, "Actually, I also have always wondered about that. I once had an accident and was found unconscious at the scene." The doctor also said to my mother exactly the same, that the will of the patient is the key. Now my mother is very sad, because she does not understand that. I woke up not long after, but I do not know exactly what made me wake up. I am sorry, though I am a nurse. I still do not have an answer to the question how a person can have will when they are in a coma, and where they will find that. We can only wait and do everything in our capacity. Suddenly, the door shook, and the lights also flickered continuously. The woman outside insisted that everything must be done to save that girl. Unexpectedly, this person appeared above with a terrifying appearance. A while later, the lights returned to normal and the cleaning lady knocked on the restroom door, so Nurse Joji stepped outside. When Nurse JJI was on duty in the intensive care room, a man kept wandering around this area. The nurse reminded, "Family members are not allowed to enter this room." He asked again, "Where is the morgue?" At that moment, a patient showed abnormal signs due to a slipped breathing tube, so all nurses had to run to check. When Joji returned, she no longer saw the man. Suddenly, that man appeared in a lamp shop. He looked around everywhere but could not find a suitable lamp, so he glanced at the shop owner once and stepped outside. This lamp shop was a very special place run by shop owner Wang, and it never closed. For ordinary customers, the owner still sold lamps as requested. But for special customers like the woman with the red shoes, it was completely different, because they came not to buy lamps but with a totally different purpose. At this time, after being reminded by the owner not to touch anything, that woman left the shop. Nurse Joji drove to the hospital and saw many people in mourning clothes, and there was an old lady sitting next to a young man in a black suit. In fact, he was only sitting alone and wearing the band of the funeral host. Joji came to greet the old lady. She asked, "Can you see me? Have you died?" Joji replied, "I only almost died once." "What are you doing here?" the old lady said. Because she could not endure the crying of her family for her, she came here. "It is time for me to go, yet everyone keeps crying." Joji asked about the young man sitting beside earlier. The old lady proudly said that was her youngest grandson. When Joji praised that he was handsome, the old lady showed pride but regretted having to forget that grandson. She said, "Today I was already encoffined, so tomorrow I will go. I will forget all I know about this world. Today is the last day I can remember everything, but I cannot stop worrying about my grandson. I will be happy if someone says, 'You will be fine.' Can you do that?" Joji still could not utter words. After that, Joji took out tomatoes to eat and suggested, "Please tell me about your grandson." The old lady then told with a delighted face. No one could see the old lady except Nurse JJI. While working, JJI saw a long-haired girl crying bitterly next to a male patient in a coma, so she came beside the bed and said, "We have done what we could for him already. Now it only depends on his will. As for where he takes that will, that is something I cannot know." The lover Shin Da-on heard this and understood that she must strive to maintain the survival will for her lover. Unexpectedly, at this moment, the female student Nam Gung Si-woon still went to class as if nothing had ever happened. The teacher came in to start the evening self-study session and called attendance, but Nam Gung Si-woon waited and never heard her name called. A while later, thunder and lightning struck, making the whole class startled. Two girls at the front desk turned to talk with the girl wearing glasses, telling that they heard there was a ghost in the school. Some said they had seen a girl in a school uniform appear. It is said if any class has an empty seat, then that ghost will appear, so everyone looked toward the empty chair in the class. The three girls continued their story, while Nam Gung Si-woon was like an invisible person, only able to sit listening without anyone noticing. When the whole class left together, the chubby schoolgirl continued to tell about a deserted and dark alley ahead. At night, someone wanders there and strange singing can be heard. Nam Gung Si-woon said, "Just cross to the other side, and you will see light immediately." But the three friends did not care and went away together because of fear of the mysterious alley. Nam Gung Si-woon decided to go into the alley alone. Hearing someone's footsteps behind, she ran into the lamp shop of Uncle Wang and said, "My mother needs to buy another light bulb." The uncle offered her a candy and asked about the necklace Nam Gung Si-woon was wearing. She said that was an identification necklace her father bought when she was small. Her father was working abroad, so she could not meet him. "How old are you, uncle?" she asked. Uncle Wang laughed. "Old enough." She asked again why he always wore sunglasses indoors. He explained, "This shop is too bright, my eyes are weak." She asked what time the shop closed. He said, "Until sunrise. Even if there is only one customer, I still must wait until then." Nam Gung Si-woon said the uncle was the only reason she dared to go into the alley, because outside was truly very dark and scary. It is rumored there is a ghost nearby. I have seen it but not clear, only knew it was holding an umbrella walking. The uncle replied, I think you saw something others cannot see. You are one of the few who can see, the strange people. I have guarded this shop for long, observing customers very carefully. Most are ordinary people buying lamps, but there are some a bit strange. They can blend into the rest of us. If you observe closely, you will always recognize a difference in them. Namgung Siwoon asked, If I see them, what should I do? The uncle said, If you see, just pretend not to. And if you already noticed, pretend you did not realize what was strange about them. Just act as if nothing happened. Then he suggested Namgung Siwoon go home to her mother and gave her a manual rechargeable flashlight to light the way at night. When Namgung Siwoon had left, the uncle carefully put the candy wrapper into a box. A while later, he also returned to his original old appearance. Suddenly, the homosexual girl Lee, So-hee was looking to rent a house of the long-haired landlord. After checking, she decided to rent that house. In the evening, when Lee So-hee had just finished bathing, outside the male student Woo Tae Kyung was walking while humming a song to lessen his fear when going in the dark alley. After rushing quickly, he escaped from the dark alley behind. The girl Lee So-hee, writing an essay, heard the singing outside the window and felt annoyed. At this time, Woo Tae Kyung still continued to appear in the alley and came to the lamp shop but did not dare to step inside. A while later, heavy rain poured down again. Woo Tae Kyung held an umbrella walking in the alley, not knowing the way out, so he hummed old lines to ease his fear. The girl Lee So-hee opened the window and asked, Are you the one singing in this alley every night? But Woo Tae Kyung, just seeing something, suddenly panicked and ran away, leaving Lee So-hee completely puzzled. At this time, in the class, the teacher allowed all the schoolgirls to finish the session, and the whole class greeted her to leave. Now the girl sitting next to Namgung Siwoon was sleeping on the desk, but the two girls in front decided not to wake her up and just left. Namgung Siwoon also tried to wake her friend to leave together, but it did not work, so she had to walk out alone first. After that, she stood again in front of the dark alley, empty of a single soul. The schoolgirl decided to turn on her flashlight and slowly step into the alley. Suddenly, she saw a woman walking ahead, wearing a very striking pair of red shoes. Realizing this woman had no umbrella, Namgung Siwoon ran up and offered, Please share my umbrella. When the woman asked, Where are you going? Namgung Siwoon answered, I am going to the lamp shop because my mother asked me to buy some things. The woman kept walking, so Namgung Siwoon followed to cover her with the umbrella and said she lived at XO Mang Apartments. Suddenly, the schoolgirl noticed the woman's hair automatically lengthening. Then that woman moved with staggering steps and suddenly grew tall like a giant right before her eyes. Namgung Siwoon suddenly remembered the lamp shop owner's words. If you happen to see them, just pretend nothing is strange. She said, I must go home to my mother now, then hurriedly stepped forward. When she turned back, she saw the giant woman chasing her, so she ran and screamed loudly. The lamp shop owner, Ji Dong, heard the sound and ran out. Seeing the woman approach, he said to Namgung Siwoon, Go home to your mother. The schoolgirl sprinted away. At this moment, Ji Dong took off his glasses. Immediately, the giant woman stopped, turned her back, then returned to her original size. He put his glasses back on. The schoolgirl friend awoke from her slumber and saw a strange girl appearing in her classroom. Meanwhile, the male student Woo Tae Kyung, while walking in the dark alley, ran into the girl Shin Da-on, who was carrying a suitcase, which startled him. He said, I am going to a lamp shop at the end of the alley. It is very bright there. If you reach it, you can go home. Let's go together. The two shared one umbrella, heading toward the lamp shop. Passing a house, Woo Tae Kyung said, This is the only window lit in this alley. The other day when the light had just gone out, a girl opened the window, but I saw another person standing behind her. That woman looked very bizarre. Shin Da-on kept walking, and Woo Tae Kyung pulled her back because he saw reverse-growing nails on that woman's hand. Suddenly, Woo Tae Kyung's legs were completely twisted backward. Even so, he forced himself to stand, moving step by painful step, hoping to escape the bizarre woman, then ran off in a panic, running and shouting loudly for help. But the more he ran, the more he returned to the house with the flickering window. Woo Tae-kyung kept trying to move and still returned to the same spot, so he sat down on the ground and begged, "Ed, please help me get out of here. I want to go home right now." At this moment, inside the house, the girl Lee So-hee had just finished bathing when she saw a very long lock of hair under the drain, so she was terrified. A moment later, seeing the window move by itself, she realized all the abnormalities in the house were caused by a ghost. That thing was born to live in the dark, so it constantly switched off lights to exist in this house. Lee So-hee rushed outside but could not open the door, so she smashed the glass with a hammer and still could not pull the door. She burst into tears, panicking and calling for help, but no one heard. A moment later, Shin Da-an pulled her suitcase into the lamp shop. The shop owner asked what she had come to do, and Shin Da-an only dragged the suitcase in a loop around the shop. Seeing a light flicker, she glanced down at her suitcase, and blood was flowing out of it. Right then, a man in a raincoat stepped into the shop and said to the owner, "I am the police. I am looking for a suspect about 30 years old, 1.80 meters, short hair. I lost him in this area. This is the only place open at this hour." The girl Shin Da-an immediately pulled the suitcase and left. The police officer saw a blood trail on the floor and called her back. Shin Da-an said, "My body is not well." The officer guessed she was on her period and took off his raincoat to put over her. Shin Da-an left, abandoning the lamp she had been eyeing. The schoolgirl Namgung Si-woon, after running for a while, remembered her mother's reminder to buy a bulb, so she turned back and passed by Shin Da-an. Reaching the lamp shop, the owner told her, "I am fine, go home to your mother." The police officer still suspected this strange shop. When the owner asked, "What did you come for?" the officer answered, "Because this place is always lit, I just dropped by." Then he saw a lamp flickering continuously. A month earlier, there was a girl whose ex-boyfriend came to her house and pounded on the door. She shouted, threatening to call the police. When the banging stopped, she cracked the door open and a motorcycle rushed in, throwing her aside. The house burned down right after. The culprit got on a coach to flee, but as the door closed, Officer Jiang knocked and asked the driver to cooperate and required all passengers to get off. Soon after, he was caught. Unexpectedly, he saw the girlfriend he had harmed seemingly present on the vehicle. He was escorted to the station. That night, an old man watched TV alone with trembling hands. A mysterious person knocked on the door. The next day, while Officer Jiang was at the office, a bespectacled man came to the station as a witness of the case. A colleague handed Officer Jiang the file of an elderly solitary death. A witness found him deceased at home. Medical examination concluded he died suddenly of a stroke. Officer Jiang came to the victim's house to examine and saw the old man still in the same position, slumped on the chair, the TV still on. A colleague said the discoverer was the landlord. The old man's wife had died many years ago and his children were overseas, so he lived alone. Officer Jiang believed it was not a myocardial infarction because there were no signs of pain or struggle. He looked very peaceful. He checked the call history in the old model phone and saw he only called his children and grandchildren before passing. Officer Jiang noticed the position of the remote placed next to the old man. The colleague realized the TV program was just a replay. Officer Jiang inferred the old man could hardly use that function, and only the channel button on the remote was worn. The next day, while eating black bean noodles and accidentally getting sauce on his hand, Officer Jiang suddenly remembered the image of the deceased old man. Seeing the dark streaks on the wall, he associated them with the marks on the victim's floor. Feeling suspicious about the death, he went around the black bean noodle shops in the area to investigate. Late at night, he decided to try his luck at one last restaurant, ordered a bowl of noodles and carefully observed the owner's items, a pair of dark glasses and a rectangular knife box on the floor. He realized this person had appeared at the police station as a witness. After that, while enjoying the noodles, Officer Jiang recalled that the old man had only called his children and grandchildren before he died. He said to the owner, "He never called to place an order. Why did you deliver there?" Although he was declared to have died naturally, I still find it very suspicious, because his calm expression was not normal. He only knew how to press the channel button, yet the TV was on replay. He was right-handed, yet the remote lay on the left. I am certain someone came there, because I also saw the mark of a box on the floor. Those black spots on the ground were black bean sauce. It was you, wasn't it? The owner stepped into the light and asked, "Why are you speaking so rudely? I am afraid I do not understand what you are saying." Officer Jiang paid and walked out. Back at the station, he reviewed the file of noodle shop owner Kim Sang-hun, discovering this person had served as a witness for many different cases. A month later, a girl was chased by a motorcyclist. Officer Jiang, wearing a raincoat, blocked the way and was thrown to the ground by the motorcycle. When he removed the helmet of the suspect, he recognized it was the Black Bean Noodle Shop owner he had met the previous month. He subdued him and shouted, "Murderer!" But the guy asked, "You can see her too?" The girl being chased was the victim who had been firebombed by her ex, with an extremely grotesque face. The noodle shop owner said, "You have sharp eyes. She is no longer human." He sprang up and fled, pursued fiercely by Officer Zhang. When he pinned him down, the officer saw his eyes flash like a cat's, and at the same time a truck was barreling toward them. After that, Officer Zhang asked the lamp shop owner about a motorcyclist about 1.80 m with cat-like eyes. Suddenly, one of the owner's eyes twitched, violently, darting around. Seeing a lamp blinking, he ignored it. The lamp shop owner said he had never seen the person the officer sought, so Officer Jiang stepped outside. Walking on the street, he recalled an old story. His wife once reported I miscarried after 4 months. The two had prepared many items and chosen many names to welcome their baby girl, so both were heartbroken. Immediately after, he had to hunt a criminal who had attacked a high school girl. Running into the class to find the culprit, he saw a list of girls, names that looked very similar to the names the couple had chosen, which wrenched his heart. Returning home, his wife also left him. Back to the present, the police officer kept moving and always circled back to the lamp shop. He collapsed, feeling his body abnormal, especially his eyes constantly deforming. That day, Nurse JJI came to the hospital to work. In the elevator, a drenched man entered. It was the bus driver. Knowing he wanted to go to the 8th floor of the intensive care unit, Joji asked why. The driver choked. "Will the victims of the bus crash wake up?" She replied, "They are severely injured. Waking up also depends on their desire to live." He burst into tears. Suddenly, water poured everywhere, from his very body, frightening Joji. The water flooded the elevator, but she still tried to talk. When the doors opened, everything returned to normal. Joji calmed herself, returned to work, and put on headphones to awaken the will to live for a patient. Immediately after, JJI processed the transfer of an alcoholic patient from the intensive care unit, telling him, "You must quit drinking before it gets worse. Now you drift in and out, speaking nonsense." She asked, "When delirious did you see anyone? Was it a bearded man with a grimy face?" Then she explained, "Those in severe accidents or alcoholics sometimes hallucinate. The ICU is the border between life and death, so your seeing them can be understood." When bringing him back to a regular ward, he gasped in fear. Joji sat down. "I also once saw the man you saw." She showed the scar on her head and said, "I once had a car accident, a brain injury, half dead. When I luckily woke, it took me a long time to adapt. Even now I sometimes see people, not knowing if they are even human, maybe dead, or just drifting like I once did. The man you saw always asked me, 'Where is the morgue?' He was a patient who had lost consciousness, only waiting for death." Joji helped clean the patient's ears, whispering, "I heard you were once buried alive for debt. You think you left a burden for your family, so you tried to find the morgue, right? I too once wandered alone for long, but luckily someone gave me the will to live on. When I was in a coma, the head nurse put music on for me. Slowly I woke. Don't give up." Then she played the music that once helped her awaken. If you see someone on the border between life and death, it means you too are at that border. If you keep seeing that, who knows what may happen. Please take good care of yourself. The schoolgirl Namgung Si-woon went home, greeted the building guard but received no reply. Suddenly, an uncle called her over, complaining of a dog barking all day and night in the apartment, keeping him from sleep. Namgung Si-woon thought this was a strange person the lamp shop owner had spoken of. so she turned on her flashlight. She saw his whole body covered in ice, though it was not winter. She tried to act normal, excused herself to return to her mother. He urged her to go quickly. Nam Gong-si-woon ran home, panicked, telling of the strange encounters. I reached the lamp shop, but there were too many strange figures around. The lamp seller told me to go home, so I didn't buy the bulb. I'll buy it tomorrow, mother, don't be angry. She hugged her mother, sensing her body smelled of fresh flowers, because at that moment, her mother was having burial cloth stuffed into her mouth, lying among flowers in a coffin at the funeral home. After that, the mortuary manager and a female staff member cleaned the body of Shin Da-eun, so she would no longer feel pain. If she were reborn, she would forget everything past. They placed her in the preservation chamber. The manager explained, "People are usually given 3 days before cremation or burial, a tradition for centuries. We wait 3 days hoping the deceased may come back. It is also the final courtesy for them to bid farewell. After 3 days, nothing remains." Before her last breath, Shin Da-eun sat waiting at a bus stop, recalling happy moments. She had once sat here, in a field of flowers, waiting for her lover. Seeing No Shin-woo waving, Shin Da-eun beamed. Seeing her deformed nails, she remembered holding hands at the cinema, the memory of their twin phones. At the temple, they had spoken through drums. No Shin-woo said "I love you," and Shin Da-eun replied in beats. But now she could utter words, calling his name. "Kim No Shin-woo, I love you. I miss you so much." Soon after, the bus arrived. No Shin-woo passed by but did not recognize her, coldly walking on. Then she fell, lying on the road. 2 cleanup men collected the belongings Shin Da-eun left. But touching her items, they sensed something behind the door, with rustling sounds. The cleaner grew nervous. "She has not left yet. We'll come back another day. Turn off the lights now." At this time, Shin Da-eun was stitching the wound on her lover's belly. A while later, No Shin-woo awoke again. In the following days, Shin Da-eun prepared a suitcase and waited at the bus stop. Each time she saw No Shin-woo step off, she tapped the seat to awaken his memory, but he only walked away then collapsed, so she kept trying to maintain his consciousness. Later, a couple in a cinema suddenly heard stitching sounds, and the girl saw a suitcase nearby. They fled in fright. Shin Da-eun continued sewing her lover at their old spot. Soon, No Shin-woo could stand. The next day, Shin Da-eun asked directly, "Don't you recognize me?" Right then, blood again gushed from No Shin-woo and he collapsed. The place she brought him to sew was the temple they had once visited. The next day was the third, the final day before Shin Da-eun vanished forever. Yet No Shin-woo still had not remembered her. At the hospital mortuary, the staff said, "We cannot open the chamber to clean the body of Miss Shin Da-eun." The manager said, "She must be holding resentment. Give her more time." Nam Gong-si-woon ran back to her apartment, entered the elevator. As the doors closed, a man blocked them. She saw his belly bleeding and panicked. As the doors opened, she rushed out. No Shin-woo, the office worker, followed, making her pound on the door, calling her mother. In reality, he lived next door. No Shin-woo asked, "Have we met before?" Seeing her shake her head, he muttered, "When did I move here?" Suddenly, he collapsed, body parts misaligned. His lover Shin Da-eun appeared, saying, "He belongs to me." Nam Gong-si-woon entered her home, peeked, and saw the strange woman stuffing the neighbor into a suitcase. Her mother quickly covered her mouth, signaling silence. When the woman left, Nam Gong-si-woon escaped, protesting, "Why didn't you open the door? You're strange these days." Mother gave her a box to put the bulb in. Nam Gong-si-woon said, "I didn't buy any bulb. I won't go to that shop anymore. I'm too scared. Lately I keep meeting odd people. You don't care about me. Everyone ignores, pretending not to know me." She smashed the bulbs in the box, sulking. "I'll never buy another bulb. I won't leave the house again," then hid in her room. Shin Da-eun took the elevator down, asking her lover inside the suitcase, "I don't understand why you don't remember me." Leaving the elevator, she did not know where to go to keep awakening his memory. Nurse Zhao-ji left work and saw a boy with a ball waiting. He said, "I am looking for someone inside that ward because I want to give this to him." She said, "You cannot bring things in." He replied sadly, "I don't know his name, but he hung this on my neck on the day of the bus accident. I think he likes this ball." Joji said, "I know who he is. I'll return it for you." Then took the ball from the boy who survived the crash. The night before, Shin Do-hoon dragged her suitcase through the dark alley, passing the bus driver. Never having met, they passed silently. After that, Officer Jang also came, lighting a lighter. Seeing the flame, he recalled hazy memories before being lost in the dark alley and the wound behind his head. At that moment, in the light shop, a lamp flickered. Officer Jang entered, asking for a hot coffee. After drinking, he shook his head. "I cannot taste it. I have wandered everywhere and realized something is off here. Thanks to the lighter, I see this place is unusual. Night never ends, and my body is very strange too. I need to know what this place is." The shop owner removed his glasses, revealing cat-like eyes, then began to tell his life story. Long ago, after an earthquake, Ji Udong and his daughter Du-hai were trapped under the rubble. The father tried with all his strength to free his child, but in vain. Seeing her father helpless, the girl picked up a candy, put it into his mouth and said, "Dad, you must wake up." She also put a candy in her own mouth to gain strength. The father promised, "I will come back before you finish the candy. Can you stay by yourself? Try to wait, I will come to get you." As he let go, the girl said she was tired. He soothed her. "Stay alert, I will come back, don't sleep," then struggled to crawl out. Ji Udong found a dark alley, cried for help, but no one answered. Catching a single beam of light from a house, he rushed into the lamp shop and pleaded, "My daughter is trapped out there, please help." The owner said coldly, "It is too late. Not my business. Go." He still begged in despair. The owner said, "If the girl wants to come here, she must come by herself." He burst into tears. "My child is trapped." Then he shouted, "How can you stay calm when others are in danger? What if I smash this place?" As he raised a lamp, the owner bared naked eyes, cast a magical gaze, switched off all the lights and froze the father. Putting the lamp back, the owner put the glasses on again, and everything returned to normal as if nothing had happened. The owner said, "Your daughter's light bulb is here too." Meanwhile, at the quake site, the rescue team had arrived. Under the debris, Du-hai still held a candy in her mouth and whispered, "Has Dad woken up?" She put the candy back into the wrapper, took another and said, "Dad, I'm so scared. I want your hug. I guess I cannot follow you." Beside her, the father lay unconscious. In the light shop, Ji Udong writhed with worry for his child, sobbing. When he understood why he was here, he implored, "Give me the girl's bulb." The owner replied, "She must come get it with her will." He declared, "I will do anything for my child. Tell me what I must do." The owner asked, "Truly? Even if it takes a very long time?" Then glanced at a very faint lamp and said, "Now let us make a trade." Officer Jang still did not understand. "I came here right after the accident, so I am dead?" The owner replied, "Basically, you are still alive." At that moment, one of his eyes began twitching non-stop. Then he said, "I have seen a ghost. She clearly died of smoke inhalation, yet I still saw her. If I am alive, then why do I look like this?" The owner answered, "The dead often look unusual when they walk in the other world. That is why they are called ghosts. Those whose lives were cut short by unfortunate events may continue to exist here. Some do not accept their own death, so they linger." The police officer said, "Stop and end with one question. What on earth is this place? Don't explain the incomprehensible. Say the simple thing." The owner answered, "You are in the other world." At the same time, in the intensive care unit, a new nurse arrived. Nurse Bayan said, "This is my first time working here. Please guide me." Everyone was rather indifferent, except senior JJI. The head nurse asked JJI to mentor the newcomer. Right after, JJI explained the procedures and said, "Recently, we received many critical patients from the bus crash. We must monitor them closely." She led Beyond to a male patient, the first brought in on the day of the bus crash, though he was not a traffic victim. That day, Bongjin got lost in the mountains and slipped. The rescue team struggled to search, finding him unconscious from hypothermia in the heavy rain. When found, a rescue dog lay holding him to keep him warm, so his vital signs did not drop too low. The dog stayed by him even under the downpour. Bayan asked, "How is the dog now?" JJI quietly replied, "It did not make it. A branch had pierced its belly when found. But rescue dogs are trained to stick to the victim until they are saved." In the mindscape, Bongjin irritably pulled a blanket over his head because of a dog barking in the yard. He leapt up and shouted, "If I catch you, you're dead." Then he rushed down and chased the dog. After a while, he was exhausted but kept going. When he caught up, he saw the dog impaled by a branch. The memory of being shielded by it flooded back. He knelt. "I am sorry." The dog trudged closer as if to comfort him, then turned and ran, leading the way for him. At the funeral home, the husband called the ICU to ask about Namgong Samun. The head nurse said, "She still shows no sign of waking." JJI told Bayan Namgong Siwon was a passenger on the bus. Head trauma caused a subdural hemorrhage. Outwardly, nothing seems wrong, but the survival rate is very low. I think her mother did everything to protect her, so the worst was avoided. Bayan asked, "How is her mother now?" JJI shook her head. "When she wakes, everything will be a nightmare. I only hope she is having a beautiful dream now." At the same time, in the other world, Namgong Siwon sobbed after smashing all the bulbs her mother had forced her to buy. Her mother knocked on the door, but she would not open. Bracing her painful leg, the mother decided to go out. JJI continued with Lee So-hee's chart. When transferred, another woman was clutching her tightly. We could barely separate them to take her to surgery. Lee So-hee has not woken. The other woman did not survive. In the dark alley, Hawi, I was holding Lee So-hee in sleep and whispered, "Go buy a new light." Lee So-hee made an excuse. "I broke the lock, but Hawi," I said, "that door is always open for you. Step out and there's a lamp shop at the end of the alley. Go there and find your bulb." Lee So-hee heard this, tears welled, and she burst into sobs. JJI checked a male patient who had stayed longest in the ICU and told Bayan to raise the bed and change his position to prevent bed sores. Accidentally, Bayan dropped the patient's headphones. I put them back on and said, "I have them wear headphones to give them motivation so they do not get lost and can still find the light." In his unconsciousness, that patient was about to enter the morgue, but the faint music behind held him back, urging him to seek another path. Bayan pointed to a basketball under another male patient's bed. JJI smiled. "I think that is the sport he loves, so I placed it there, hoping it will find its way to him." The head nurse called everyone outside. The team bowed to send off a patient who had just passed after a day in a coma. JJI encouraged Bayan, "You'll get used to it. This is the hardest part of ICU work." Bayan drifted back into the ward, looking at the rows of comatose beds. "Are all the patients in comas?" JJI replied, "Rarely, but this case is too severe. Where we work there is a boundary. You and I are the ones who guard that boundary. The patients are at the border, perhaps wandering at the edge of the other world. They may come back, or they may remain there." In the morgue, the attendant frowned at the driver's name. The manager said, "Maybe the bus really needed repairs, but the roads were a factor too." He stuck the name tag on the chamber and said, "We will prepare the funeral for you now." Meanwhile, the driver, drifting on the border of the other world, saw a basketball roll by, so he followed it to Woo Tae Kyung. He said, "I have been looking everywhere for you." Woo Tae Kyung asked, "Do I know you?" He answered, "Talk while walking. We have to escape this place." Woo Tae Kyung sighed. "I have searched for an exit forever. This alley feels endless," he declared. "I can get you out. There is not much time. Let me carry you." Being carried, Woo Tae Kyung whispered, "No matter how far I go, I end up back here. I am not the only one stuck. Just now, where we met, I saw a woman at the window." At the light shop, Officer Zhang touched the back of his head, felt the fresh wound and understood. This was the other world, where those whose lives were shortened by accidents continued on. "Because I'm not completely dead, that's why I look this strange," he said. The shop owner asked softly, "Do you have a child yet?" He answered, "My wife had a miscarriage. The shop owner began reading aloud the names the officer had planned to give the daughter who never got to be born. Hearing that, the officer burst into sobs. The shop owner continued, "Children here often carry names like those. Believe it or not, but people are still living in this world, and they are doing everything they can." The officer choked out a question. "Why didn't you tell me the truth about this world?" The owner explained, "Because you still have a chance to go back. If you know the truth, it means you'll remember everything. Those who want to leave here must go, but they will take no memories with them. Otherwise, they'll confuse the two worlds, unable to tell time and place apart. Anyone who wants to return to the human world should not form any relationships here. I am the one who guards that boundary." "But why were you chasing the motorcyclist?" The officer replied, "I thought he was a murderer. He had eyes just like yours. When I chased him, I ended up at this lamp shop again. Maybe he deliberately led me here. I want to meet him to verify something." The shop owner nodded. "Then go. You still haven't found your own bulb, have you?" The officer flicked his lighter to light his way. Right then, in the ICU, Nurse Jo Ji noticed Officer Jiang's body showing signs of movement. She hurried over, checked his responses, and called his name over and over. A tear streamed down the officer's cheek. In the other world, the dog, once pierced through the belly by a branch, ran to the light shop and led Bong Jin inside. It pointed to a faint bulb, the emblem of his life. Bong Jin trembled and reached out to touch it. At the same time, the exhausted bus driver set Woo Tae Kyung down on the ground. He said, "Go to that glowing shop over there. Your bulb is inside. It is your will to live. You have to step in yourself." But Woo Tae Kyung hesitated. "I've never wanted to go in there," the driver said sternly. "It's the only way to get you out of this alley." Woo Tae Kyung walked on reluctantly. The driver broke into tears, calling after him, "I'm sorry. I want to apologize for everything." Woo Tae Kyung didn't understand and kept moving forward in silence, leaving the driver sobbing behind. When he stepped into the shop, the owner said, "I've been watching you for a long time. You've passed here a few times already, so what do you need?" Woo Tae Kyung answered, "I need my bulb." The owner hinted at the location. He went over and gently placed his hand on the filament bulb. The owner whispered, "I hope we won't meet again." In the ICU, a male patient who had once been desperate to find the morgue suddenly opened his eyes, tears streaming down. He shakily asked to hold Nurse Joji's hand as thanks. At the same time, a driver passed the bridge where the bus accident had occurred. He sensed something odd, got out to check, but found nothing. In reality, that was when Shin-da-on was stitching No Shin-woo's wound right on that bridge. No Shin-woo slowly came to. In the morgue, the drawer holding Shin-da-on's body still would not open. The manager sighed. Give her one more day. Shin-da-on's spirit sat waiting at the bus stop. When a bus arrived, she stepped on, looked straight at No Shin-woo and said, "You don't recognize me. How long will you pretend? Do you love me? No one on this bus can see us, only you can. I'm almost out of time." She took off her shirt, revealing stitches, identical to the wounds on No Shin-woo's body. Memory surged back and No Shin-woo wept when he reached home. I'm sorry, Shin-da-on, for not recognizing you." At the morgue, the manager decided, "We can't wait any longer. Open it now." In her final moment, Shin-da-on dried her tears and told her lover, "Go to the lamp shop. Tell them you need a bulb that lights up when you approach. Use your will to find it." No Shin-woo hadn't grasped it all yet. Meanwhile, the driver returned to where he had met Woo Tae Kyung. He climbed a fence and hallway. I suddenly opened a window and asked, "You're dead too? So am I." He confessed through tears. I knew the brakes had a problem, but I feared paying out of pocket, so I left the company to bear it. If I'd known it would come to this, I wouldn't have done it. I'm sorry. Ha Wei's eyes welled. Yes, it was all because of you. But hearing your remorse, I feel lighter. Accidents are fate. No one escapes. We're all unfortunate. Don't burden yourself further. The driver replied. I'll keep finding the living and bringing them to the light shop. There isn't much time. How'd I advised. Go to Exomang Apartments. A schoolgirl told me she lives there. The driver nodded and left. On the way, he met Nam Gung Si-woon's mother, walking with difficulty. He knelt. "I've been looking for you everywhere. I'll take you to the light shop now." But seeing burial cloth stuffed in her mouth, he realized she was dead. She pointed toward the apartments where Nam Gung Si-woon still was, then quietly went on. At home, Nam Gung Si-woon stepped out of her room, looked for her mother, and cleaned up the broken bulbs. At the same time, the mother's spirit reached the light shop and handed her daughter's necklace to the owner. Seeing the engraved name, he recognized it. The girl who once came here to buy a lamp. The mother pleaded earnestly, but the owner shook his head. The girl must come herself. You cannot substitute. In despair, she grabbed his collar. The owner removed his glasses, revealing bewitched eyes. The mother collapsed in tears. Trembling, she took a tray of candies, set it in his hands, then lifted a candy to his mouth. Only then did he burst into tears, realizing she was Du-hai, the daughter trapped in the earthquake long ago. He embraced the child, now grown in choking sobs. Back then, after making a pact with the shop owner, the father had brought a lamp to little Du-hai, placed her hand on the bulb, and made it blaze. Nam Gung Si-woon pressed the elevator button. When the doors opened, the neighbor inside didn't know why it opened by itself. On the lower floor, Nam Gung Si-woon saw the driver sprawled weakly. He said, "I have been looking for you. On the way, I met your mother." She couldn't speak, so she asked me to pass this on. "Don't you remember what happened? We've already met. But if you don't remember, it means you don't know where you are." He vomited only water, and the neighbor walked by without noticing. He said, "They can't see us. Think back to how people around you behaved, and you'll understand." Nam Gung Si-woon remembered. In class, she wasn't called on. Friends never mentioned her. The lights went out when she was in the restroom. The guard didn't answer her greeting. Then her nose began to bleed, and panic overwhelmed her. The driver said, "I'm truly sorry. I probably can't take you to the light shop myself anymore. Even now, your mother hasn't stopped trying to bring you back." Nam Gung Si-woon waited at home. Her mother brought back a very faintly glowing lamp and offered it to her. Nam Gung Si-woon pulled her hand away, determined not to touch it, sobbing. "Can't I stay with you? Let me stay with you. I just want to be with you." But the mother remained firm. Only then did Nam Gung Si-woon see the burial cloth in her mother's mouth. The mother returned the necklace to her, then seized Nam Gung Si-woon's hand and, struggling, rasped, "Yo, father is waiting." Nam Gung Si-woon burst into tears and pressed her face to her mother. At last, the mother got her daughter's hand onto the bulb. Elsewhere, the bus driver was completely spent. At the same time, Lee So-hee said farewell to her older lover and set out for the light shop. After a few lingering seconds, she stepped out of the house and broke into sobs at the parting words. Wearing red shoes, she stood before the shop door, decided, and went in. Gazing at the lamps, she recognized the bulb that represented her life and touched it. Right after that, patient Lee So-hee opened her eyes on the hospital bed, but not long after, she returned to her older lover's side and whispered, "I've come back to you." Because at that moment the nurses were expressing sorrow over Lee So-hee's passing. When she had just taken the lamp, she asked the shop owner, "If I drop it, can I live here?" Wang answered, "If you take it away, it will help people move on more easily." Lee So-hee said, "I want to live in a world where the two of us can be together," then let the lamp fall to the ground. Her body was taken away. A nurse said sadly, "She woke only to leave." I called it a terminal lucidity, the final clarity before death. She must have seen the light. At the same time, Shin Da-non led her lover to the light shop, urging, "Go in." No Shin-woo burst into tears and hugged her tightly. Shin Da-on told him, "You must find your lamp." No Shin-woo stepped in slowly, looked back at her, then walked on. He murmured his lover's words, "When you approach, the light will turn on." The owner gently reminded, "Don't touch anything. It seems that's not yet your will." Then No Shin-woo found his own lamp. Outside, seeing a flash, Shin-do-on ran over. But he and the lamp were gone. She broke down, understanding they had been separated forever. Time passed swiftly. 3 months went by. Ja-ji visited Woo Tae-kyung, who was preparing for discharge. He was still a bit delirious. "Sometimes I dream I'm wandering somewhere. I wake drenched in sweat, but strangely I feel at ease." The nurse gave him a gift: glow-in-the-dark slippers, so you won't get lost in the dark anymore. When she said, "I hope we won't meet again," Woo Tae-kyung laughed. "I feel like I've heard that somewhere." Ja-ji replied, "That person is cold outside, kind inside," then left the room. Stepping out, she took a breath. The light outside was beautiful. She continued her work, just as she had told comatose patients. Seek the light, because it was also the journey she once walked. At the light shop, the long-haired old landlord, who had rented to Lee So-hee, brought a box. Seems there's been another accident, quite a few new residents. Wong opened it, countless faintly glowing bulbs. He sighed. "I wonder if they'll be residents or just pass through." In the other world, the bus driver kept doing the work he loved. Lee So-hee kept writing, living beside her lover with no more slander. Meanwhile, in this world, Nam Si-woon rode behind her father to school, starting her studies again. Dad asked, "Are you okay?" Nam Si-woon smiled. "I'm done with the delirium. I'm excited to see my friends." She said she'd take the bus home herself, but her father said, "I'll wait at the school gate," and encouraged her. Nam Si-woon gripped her necklace for strength. In class, the teacher assigned group work and asked who would team with Nam Si-woon to help her make up what she'd missed. She timidly asked to be excused, but her classmates all invited her into their groups. Nam Si-woon asked to go to the infirmary. As she walked out, a girl peeked in at the classroom door. Outside, snow fell. Touching the cold water, Nam Si-woon was stunned to realize the world in her delirium was real. She whispered, "Mom, I remember. I don't want the delirium to end because I want to remember you. I feel at ease knowing that world exists, Mom." Suddenly, she saw a schoolgirl standing in the snow. The girl asked, "Don't you remember meeting me? You once waved to me from that window. You even turned on the light when you saw I was still stuck in the restroom. I had no friends before, but you saw me and greeted me. After you left, I was all alone, so I followed you here." In the lamp shop, Ji Yu-zong sipped hot coffee beside the rescue dog. Du Hai came in. "It's snowing hard out there, Dad." She massaged her father's shoulders, the one who had kept vigil here. When he moved to feed her candy like when she was little, she quietly unwrapped it herself and smiled. Father and daughter chatted warmly. This is not the only light shop in this world. Just then, Officer Jiang, in the flesh, went to the jajangmyeon shop, but it was empty. He called out, "Come out. I hear there's a ghost around here. Is it you, Kim Sung-hun?" The owner in dark glasses appeared when called by name. He brewed a coffee. Officer Jiang introduced himself, then asked, "When the truck barreled toward us, you shielded me, didn't you? After I was discharged, people said you were the one who saved me. Thank you, and I'm sorry. You led me to the light shop, right?" The man in glasses nodded slightly. "Yes, I only did my job. My job is to send those who shouldn't remain here to another world, or help them return from that world. That's why I chased that dead girl. As for the old man who died at home after being alone too long, he starved when he couldn't leave the house. I came and let him enjoy a bowl of black bean noodles as a final meal. When he breathed his last, I turned on his favorite replay program, and thus his life began again in a new world." When the officer asked, "Exactly, what are you doing here?" the man replied, "I'm just visiting. I must go now. You have special eyes, don't you? You can see what others can't. Not everyone can see ghosts like you. Even seeing me is already special. Take these glasses. They're yours now. You've got a lot to do." After that, Officer Jiang also wore those dark glasses to continue the work the noodle shop owner left behind. Nurse Johi drove to the hospital for work and picked up a dumbbell from the ground. A man appeared and said, "That's mine." Then he recognized Johi and snapped, "I've been looking for you for so long. Why did you do that to me? I'm in pain, don't you know? I was in a car accident, and you ignored me when I was suffering." The man lunged to attack. Johi fled in terror but was cornered. As he raised the weight, Officer Jiang in dark glasses appeared and blocked him. He said coolly, "Cooperate and you'll leave safely," then revealed his cat-like eyes to the man. At this time, No Shin-woo had to see a psychiatrist regularly because of delirium. Since waking in the ICU, his face had grown gaunt and hollow. He pleaded, "Please help me out of this. My whole mind is only darkness. They say I have a girlfriend, but she's dead. I can't remember anything. I'm truly ruined, miserable, and disabled." The doctor reassured him, "This is a common symptom of delirium. Keep what you need and throw away what causes you distress." After the appointment, No Shin-woo drove his power wheelchair home. In the middle of the bridge, the battery died, and he had to push the wheels by hand. Stopping where the bus crash had happened, he pulled out his phone and reread the messages he once sent his girlfriend. The more he read, the angrier he grew, then decided to throw the phone away, as if to cast everything off. 3 months earlier, while preparing Shin Da-an for encoffining, the morgue manager had spoken with her spirit, "Don't cling to the past. To a better place." But Shin Da-an cried, "He doesn't remember me. I tried so hard. Does he truly love me? I only hope he remembers me. Calls my name one more time." In the present, No Shin-woo rolled back home, but couldn't recall the door code. The motion light went out. He waved to trigger it, and that gesture recalled the old days when he waved to Shin Da-an. In that very moment, Shin Da-an appeared. She continued to follow No Shin-woo, hoping to fulfill her final wish. Meanwhile, Officer Jiang paused his investigation into the mysterious missing schoolgirl, perhaps because he had sent her spirit back to the other world. But right after, another schoolgirl appeared at the station. A colleague said, "A few days ago, Young High School collapsed. During the accident, this girl rushed straight into the site." Officer Jiang asked, "Were you hurt?" She shook her head. "I'm fine." The strange look in her eyes told him, this girl must also be a special spirit, lost between two worlds. The film ends here. If you like this content, please like and subscribe to support us. See you in the next videos.